Soul, Nature, and God, Part 3. The soul must also be eternal. Why? In the first place, we see that the soul is not matter. It is neither a gross body nor a fine body, which we call mind or thought. It is neither a physical body nor what in Christianity is called a spiritual body, nor what in Christianity is called a spiritual body. It is the gross body and the spiritual body that are liable to change. The gross body is liable to change almost every minute and dies, but the spiritual body endures through long periods until one becomes free, when it also falls away. When a man becomes free, the spiritual body disappears or disperses. The gross body disintegrates every time a man dies. The soul is not made of any particles. The soul, not being made of any particles, must be indestructible. What do we mean by destruction? Destruction is disintegration of the materials out of which anything is composed. If this glass is broken into pieces, the materials will disintegrate, and that will be the destruction of the glass. Disintegration of particles is what we mean by destruction. It naturally follows that nothing that is not composed of particles can be destroyed, can ever be disintegrated. The soul is not composed of any materials. It is unity indivisible. Therefore, it must be indestructible. For the same reasons, it must also be without any beginning. So the soul is without any beginning and end. We have three entities. Here is nature, which is infinite but changeful. The whole of nature is without beginning and end, but within it are multifarious changes. It is like a river that runs down to the sea for thousands of years. It is the same river always, but it is changing every minute. The particles of water are changing their position constantly. Then there is God unchangeable, the ruler, and there is the soul unchangeable as God, eternal but under the ruler. One is the master, the other the servant, and the third one is nature. God being the cause of the projection, the continuance, and the dissolution of the universe, the cause must be present to produce the effect. Not only so, the cause becomes the effect. Glass is produced out of certain materials and certain forces used by the manufacturer. In the glass, there are those forces plus the materials. The forces used have become the force of adhesion. And if that force goes, the glass will fall to pieces. The materials also undoubtedly in the glass. Only their form is changed. The cause becomes the effect. Wherever you see an effect, you can also analyze it into a cause, and the cause manifests itself as the effect. It follows, if God is the cause of the universe and the universe is the effect, that God has become the universe. If souls are the effect, the God the cause, the God has become the souls. Each soul, therefore, is a part of God. As from a mass of fire an infinite number of sparks fly, even so from the Eternal One all the universe of souls have come about. We have seen that there is an eternal God and there is eternal nature. And there is also an infinite number of eternal souls. This is the first stage in religion. It is called dualism, the stage when man sees himself as God, eternally separate. When God is a separate entity by himself, and the man is a separate entity by himself, and nature is a separate entity by itself. This is dualism, which holds that the subject and the object are opposed to each other in everything. When man looks at nature, he is the subject and nature the object. He sees the dualism between subject and object. When he looks at God, he sees God as the object and himself as the subject. They are entirely separate. This is the dualism between man and God. This is generally the first view of religion. Then comes another view which I have just shown to you. Man begins to find out that if God is the cause of the universe and the universe the effect, God himself must have become the universe and the souls, and he is but a particle of which God is the whole. We are but little beings, sparks of that mass of fire, and the whole universe is a manifestation of God himself. This is the next step. In Sanskrit, it is called Vishvad Advaita. Just as I have this body and this body covers the soul, and the soul is in and through this body, so is the whole universe of infinite souls and nature forms, as it were the body of God. When the period of involution comes, the universe becomes finer and finer, yet remains the body of God. When the gross manifestation comes, then also the universe remains the body of God. Just as the human soul is the soul of the human body and mind, so God is the soul of our souls. All of you have heard this expression in every religion, souls of our souls. That is what is meant by it. He, as it were, resides in them, guides them, is a ruler of them all. In the first view, that of dualism, each one of us is an individual, eternally separate from God and nature. In the second view, we are individuals, but not separate from God. We are like little particles floating in one mass, and that mass is God. We are individuals, but one in God. We are all in Him, we are all parts of Him, and therefore we are one. And yet between man and God, there is a strict individuality, separate and not yet separate. Then comes a still finer question. The question is, can infinity have parts? What is meant by parts of infinity? If you reason it out, you will find that it is impossible. Infinity cannot be divided, it always remains infinite. If it could be divided, each part would be infinite, and there cannot be two infinites. Suppose there were, one would limit the other, and other would be finite. Infinity can only be one undivided. Thus, the conclusion will be reached that the infinite is one and not many, and that one infinite soul is reflecting itself through thousands and thousands of mirrors, appearing as so many different souls. It is the same infinite soul which is the background of the universe that we call God. The same infinite soul also is the background of the human mind, which we call the human soul.